Classy little quintet for this. The first prize of just over £22,500. It's a listed race. Looking forward to this one. Barry Orr reported there was money for Culmination earlier. That horse is 50 to 1. Wall of Fire 6 to 4 favourite at this stage. Moonrise Landing, a first run for just under a year, 2 to 1. Elidor 5 to 1. And Trip to Paris, who is now 9 to 2. Of course, the Gold Cup winner at Royal Ascot in 2015. Not one since. Wall of Fire and Trip to Paris have been on their travels to Dubai recently. A really classy little lineup for this one.
Terrific race this. Totepool, Barry Hill's Further Flight Stakes. Great to see Barry here, along with other members of his family. Mikey Hills is here as well. Jockeys making their way into the paddock. You might be able to make out in the distance number 1 Culmination. We'll pick up some of the leading fancies when they make their way around the other side of the paddock, but just a general race assessment from you, Eddie?
Yeah, not quite sure where the pace is going to come from. We've got 5 horses, none of them known as front runners. Maybe Culmination, the hurdler, will take him along. He's been prominent in his hurdle races. Hasn't run on the flat since last year in the French provinces where he won, and he's been just okay over hurdles. Won a maiden hurdle at Ayr, but he'd come back looking very fit.
Let's start our paddock assessment by looking at number 3, Trip to Paris, Fred Dunlop and Ryan Moore. He's got questions to answer, this horse.
Yeah, he has. He's certainly not the horse he was. The headgear's gone back on, the blinkers, and he just ran not very well on his run in Meydan without headgear, and on that form he'd have an awful lot to do because he finished tailed off, beaten more than 60 lengths. But top class stayer on his day, winner of the Ascot Gold Cup 2 years ago. I think it's a long way back for him because he's not shown that sort of thing since going to Australia.
Behind him is the grey, like the horse that this race is named after, Further Flight, Moonrise Landing, who is undoubtedly talented.
She is, and she was on the up when last seen, and she's had a stress fracture since winning that listed race at York last year. I think she'd have a bit more pace at the end of her race than Trip to Paris over this distance. She beat a very decent horse in Quest for More at York, and that sort of form she'd have a good chance. Rafe Beckett reports that he thinks she'll probably come on for the run as after having that stress fracture. She also met with what he called a small blip when she was getting prepared for an all-weather qualifier. So he thinks she might need the run.
So that is Moonrise Landing for Rafe Beckett and Fran Berry, who takes the ride. A couple of other horses we need to mention are number 2, Elidor, but the next one I want to pick out and get your thoughts on is Wall of Fire, and I'll talk to you with more detail about how this race will pan out in a moment. But what do you make of Wall of Fire as a type?
He's a handy sort of looking horse. He looks like a stayer, not very big. He's certainly gutsy. He showed plenty of application when winning at Doncaster last year, following up from his Melrose success at York. Those 2 big handicaps. And then went to Dubai, and he ran more than passably well in a Group 2 out there, over 2 miles. I don't think the drop back to this sort of trip's going to be against him. He looks the fittest in the race of those with significant flat form, and I think he's bound to go well.
And number 2, Elidor, the next one to pick out as well, if we can, just in front of Wall of Fire. Final one to look at in the paddock?
He was some way behind Wall of Fire in that race at Doncaster, but has a giant weight pull at the weights, and Sylvester Sousa has the ride again. He popped up when winning a handicap at Goodwood last year. The ground will be similar to that day, so that's what's really in his favour. 1 or 2 of these might want softer ground, particularly Moonrise Landing.
Further Flight stakes coming up from here in Nottingham. Further Flight was a terrific horse. He won the Jockey Club Cup for 5 successive years in a career which went from 88 until 98. He ran 70 times and won 24 races, and in 95 he was voted European Champion Older Horse at the Cartier Racing Awards. He is the only horse to win the same European group race 5 times. Further Flight. Off the top of my head, I remembered that. Hugo Palmer joins me. He's let into one of the secrets of TV. You're able to read Wikipedia pages when you're out of vision.
Well, Further Flight was before your time, wasn't it, Ollie?
Very good. How are you?
I'm very well.
You've just come from Doncaster,
Just come from Doncaster Sales, and I didn't think I was going to make it, hence the lack of suit.
No, you look.
I didn't want to outshine you and wear a tie.
You actually make me feel very comfortable in wearing exactly. Wall of Fire here. Clearly got a chance on the form, but you're taking on Trip to Paris and Moonrise Landing, who are talented horses, but you're a big player here.
Yeah, it's a very strong listed race. How he's come back from Dubai is hard to know, but he looks great. He's only done one light bit of work.
We're getting confused for not wearing a tie from Ed Dunlop. Yeah. Clearly his mind's not on Trip to Paris.
No Ties Club.
Exactly. Racing for change, I
Yeah, exactly. What's that woman who wrote the Racing Post? It's all for her benefit.
Karina.
Exactly. Hi, Karina.
Carry on.
Sorry. It's hard to know. He's only done one light bit of work coming back, and he seemed to come out of it really well. It's a very obvious chance, and there's only 5 runners. Our priority is to try and qualify him for the Melbourne Cup, so he needs to win a listed race.
Okay. Does actually the 5 runners concern you a bit because he was winning big field handicaps and sort of on off the bridle a bit? Will the tactics of this race mess you about a bit?
Well, we got too far back in Dubai, so I mean William will have questions to answer if we're too far back with 5 runners today. I don't know. I mean, look, we're still really learning about him. When the horse only came to me a little over a year ago, and I thought he was a sprinter that hadn't trained on. And now we're talking about the Melbourne Cup. So we're still very much learning.
How horses can surprise you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything's a work in progress. They're very young horses. He's been bought by Australian interests. My concern maybe about the Melbourne Cup is that I think he possibly might want a stronger pace than you might get. So coming back in Trip today is no worry, as obviously it's Trip he's won over twice, and maybe a mile and a half might suit him well too.
Okay, can you just give us an update on the big guns at Hugo's Yard?
Yeah, Gallo Gold's in great form. He's going to have an exhibition gallop at the Craven meeting one day next week, I think possibly Thursday, but I had a missed call earlier from Michael Prosser, so we haven't
set up for making the running. That's why it's sort of comes with a banner on it saying I don't want to have a bet, because I don't know what's going to happen in the early stages.
Aidan zoomed in on my pork pies, and that's not very fair. Rubbing salt into the wound. We're going to zoom in on this race, a good race coming up, the feature from here in Nottingham with Richard Hoyles.
All set then. Totepool Barry Hills, Further Flight Stakes field, 5 of them, and they all bobble out of the stalls. No confirmed front runner in this, and the early pace is not strong. Wall of Fire just taking a lead off Trip to Paris, who saunters through the first furlong in a lead of about a length or so, and they all drop into Indian file. But out in front, Trip to Paris for Ryan Moore, setting no more than a sedate gallop. Wall of Fire's about 2 lengths away in the blue and yellow colours, and the grey Moonrise Landing in third. 3 lengths back to Culmination, and Elidor is held up at the rear of the field. So it's not an absolute dawdle, it's just an even pace being set by Ryan Moore on Trip to Paris. He turns away from the stands with a lead of just over a length from Wall of Fire in second place. And in third, Moonrise Landing, the trio, all of whom have potential to be good stayers this year, will hold entries in the Yorkshire Cup. Turning into the back straight, Culmination is fourth, and Elidor would be about 8 to 10 lengths off the pace, which is better now. Trip to Paris. Ryan just pitched a few lengths turning into the back straight and has got an advantage of about 4 lengths or so. From in second, Wall of Fire, to Moonrise Landing, all of a sudden, Culmination in fourth place would be 12 lengths off the pace, and a further 3 to Elidor at the rear of the field. So heading past the 1 mile start, and Trip to Paris, leading by about 3 to 4 lengths from Wall of Fire in second, to the grey Moonrise Landing in third, with 5 lengths back to Culmination, as Elidor just closes on Culmination at the rear of the field. Trip to Paris getting a breather in. It's a bit stop-go here. Ryan's able to dictate the pace that he wishes, and they turn towards the final 3/4 of a mile, leading by a couple of lengths from Wall of Fire in second place. In third is Moonrise Landing, as they do just bunch up. Fourth and fifth are closer. Elidor's gone past Culmination as they prepare to turn at the far end. Trip to Paris out in the lead. Turns out of the back straight with a 2-length advantage. Wall of Fire in second. Moonrise Landing further couple of lengths back, and Elidor has just moved up the inside and taken fourth place off Culmination. The pace really yet to press on again. Having pitched a few lengths turning into the back straight, Ryan exited it, just getting a little bit of a breather in as they turn back towards home. Trip to Paris out in front, leads by just over 2 lengths or so from Wall of Fire. A little look behind there, sees Wall of Fire in second, third place for Moonrise Landing, Elidor in fourth, and Culmination last of the five, as once again Ryan just asked Trip to Paris to stretch here, leads by a couple of lengths and now beginning to make the best of his way home with 3 furlongs to travel. In second place, Wall of Fire, Moonrise Landing and Elidor shaken up in third and fourth places, and still Trip to Paris leads, 2.5 furlongs to travel. Elidor moving through on the inside of Wall of Fire, the grey Moonrise Landing. Culmination can't go with them. Elidor is the first one to throw down the challenge to Trip to Paris and goes on by, but Wall of Fire now produces a challenge of his own towards the outside. Moonrise Landing still to get on terms. Over a furlong to travel. Wall of Fire has gone to the front. Elidor over on the far side is fighting back. Elidor on the far side of Wall of Fire. Elidor pokes the nose back in front. Wall of Fire about a neck down, but he's rallying himself. Wall of Fire and Elidor go for the line together, and it's close. Very close indeed, a race that ebbed and flowed. Elidor on the far side, Wall of Fire on the near side, Moonrise Landing, Trip to Paris and Culmination.
Photo finish.
Well, that's very, very close. On that evidence, Elidor far side's nose is just down on the line, but it's a slightly deceptive angle here at Nottingham, so we'll await official confirmation. Numbers, number 2 Elidor, number 4 Wall of Fire, and it's those two that have fought out the finish. It was a set to between them from about 2 furlongs out, and it was an interesting duel with Wall of Fire having the advantage, then Elidor, then Wall of Fire, but
first, number 2 Elidor.
Elidor that won the battle when it mattered most.
Second, number 4.
Yes, old ride
Post, Wall of Fire in the yellow and blue colours. Sylvester de Sousa does move through the gap between Trip to Paris and Wall of Fire. That's fine, but as they get nearer towards the line, obviously in a driving finish when it's advantage one way and then the other, and the pendulum swinging either way, any interference, any incident in this straight is going to be looked at and analysed with a microscope.
Yeah, well, absolutely clear up to this point. Approaching the furlong pole, Elidor in the middle begins to edge away from Sylvester using his whip. He quickly switched it through to his right hand, and it doesn't look as though any interference has taken place as far as this point. Elidor continues just to edge slightly to his right. I don't think that's going to make any difference to the result, is it? So Elidor has just got home. He ducked around a little bit under the whip, but he showed very game qualities, as did the runner-up, who kept responding.
Nothing in that great finish. Elidor wins it.
Yeah, Elidor 6-1 for Sylvester de Sousa and Mick Shannon. Wall of Fire hitting 101 on Betfair. The 11-8 favourite, a real cracker for definite in the feature race of the day.